Hi again, it's Rebecca Wiedemer bringing you this video in our series where you will hear from culinary experts on the topic, given the current COVID-19 situation, what would you have done to prepare? What are you doing now? And what are your plans after the restrictions are released? This video is sponsored by Golden Grove Global, Rocky Mountain Food Partners, and the American Culinary Federation.
I'm Executive Chef Paul Huddleson at the University of Colorado, South Denver in Lone Tree. We do an extensive amount of catering and a small cafe. We focus on student learning. That's our mission is the University of Colorado and our student body, our faculty and staff. But we also do a lot of convention type stuff, seminars, big group gatherings, a lot of fundraising events, private events, weddings, corporate events, from 10 people to buyouts of 1,200 to 2,000 people. We have a pretty high standard of cleanliness and organization in the front of the house, back of the house, and the kitchens with our sanitation, food safety. We already follow a lot of those protocols because, again, we're the University of Colorado. But right now, we're closed, but we're planning the safety of our customers, safety of our students, faculty, staff, our guests coming into the building. So that's our biggest push now, is to be prepared so when we are allowed in the building, we're allowed to have events, that everybody's comfortable and trained on what's happening. And then I'm also doing a lot of research on the new chemicals we're gonna need to bring in, the new PP&E equipment we need to bring in, how we're going to process things through the kitchens, from the back door all the way to the guest. Buffets are going to be a very big part of this, where that's most of our business. So moving forward and looking at how we're going to do it, maybe it's not going to be your traditional buffet line with everybody free for all, touching all the utensils and everything. Be a lot of prepackaged items. Then the buffet is going to be set up with sneeze guards, where the server is going to serve the food to you. She'll be wearing, or he'll be wearing, gloves, a mask, working with our senior team, our facilities, implementing sanitation stations throughout the building, putting sanitation stations in the rooms, making people feel comfortable with our staff. Training is going to be a huge part of the process in any restaurant, any food service. Is going to be the training, and that's going to be ongoing every day, every shift, constantly talking to people, making sure they're following the procedures that are in place. How many people can we fit in the room? Right now, our banquet facility or our great hall, we can do about 500 person sit down, but those days I think are going to be very limited and far away before we can have that many people in a room. So maybe 250 in a room, instead of setting a table for 8, you're setting it for 6. I'm also doing all the research on, do we have to do something with the dish machine? Do we have to bring up the temperatures on things? How we're going to, how we're going to store food before it goes out to the guest? How we're going to run the operation in back of the house. Planning is a huge thing. I've already been on the phone with several of our vendors, finding out what's the new equipment, what do we need, when are we going to buy it, how long does it take to get. We're hoping to get back in by the end of July, August. Events, we're going to have to see how that works through the governor and how the state's going to allow people coming in. Again, it'll also have to fall upon the university to see what their guidelines are going to be for us. We just have to up the game a little bit more and wash the surfaces more often, more frequently, change gloves more frequently. And they've already telling you to do that anyways, but now we have to do it, instead of doing it 10 times, maybe we have to do it 15 times. Maybe we have to do it 20 times. So that's going to be the biggest point, is how deep do people want to go to feel comfortable. But for the safety of our guests, the safety of our staff, we're going to switch to purchasing or renting uniforms from a uniform company, so we know they're sanitized, so we know they're washed. And I think, again, it starts with being in the parking lot with signage, coming up to the front door signage. You have a nice welcome station with, a little welcome packet we're talking about doing. It's going to be all logoed. with sanitizers, stay with sanitizer in it, a mask in it, and then maybe with the staff, it's a disposable one because we're changing them out so much. But you make people feel comfortable coming into your building. And if they see you're taking the procedures to make them safe and the staff safe, then I think that's pretty much half the battle. And so when we go back in, we're going to do another deep clean, another deep sanitation, do some training, get some people organized and get them on board. And then hopefully we can start bringing in some customers and start making some money. Is how do we keep the vendors and other people from price gouging? And, so when we do go open our buildings and we do start opening up our economy, that we're not overpaying for products and supplies through unscrupulous vendors. I worry about the little mom and pop restaurants and those who don't have the buying power or purchasing power as a university or a large company or a large restaurant chain, that they'll be buying tens of thousands of things, where a mom and pop restaurant, they're going to buy one case of it, and where a mask in December cost you $25 a box, whereas now you're paying $75 a box for the same mask. I mean, people can reach out to me for sure, and at the university, and the university also has a website, University of Colorado, and then it's under the COVID-19. We send out daily reminders. They send out weekly reminders. Anybody can reach out to me if they have any questions or concerns. We can talk through some issues, talk about what it's going to look like in the future, and plan out how we're going to go through this all together. Our website is southdenver.cu.edu.
So my name is Pierson Shields. I work at the Hyatt Regency Denver. I'm the executive sous chef. We do majority 74% or more of banquet revenue, and we look at up to 2,000 people plated, 1,800 buffet when we're in full swing. We do a lot of the local galas. We do the corporate, a lot of the corporate business. Really anything that's a citywide event in the city, we'll see a little bit of it. Since we're so centralized in downtown next to the convention center, things like that. I feel like we prepared as best we could. It's always been my thing, and we run a really lean staff. We run them on purpose. We want everyone to get their 40 hours, and everyone should get a little bit of overtime if necessary. Over the last couple of years, what we've been trying to do is bring in interns, bring in on-call employees that are just looking for a few hours here and there, aren't mad if they don't get hours. And it's really worked well for us, walking away from temp agencies and using culinary professionals that are just looking to pick up a little slack, kind of a thing. We don't really have any issues. We're already extremely clean. The kitchen does excellent. We have a whole stewarding department. So for us, it'll be business as usual with kind of just maintaining the building in our base is what we call it, where all the systems are in case an alarm goes off and something like that. We're still talking about how full service is going to look, but the initial open up is going to be a lot of grab and go. Buffets will probably be a lot of prepackaged items. If we do get a group, depending on if we're allowed to have 10, 100, 1,000 people in a ballroom, right now the government's kind of dictating what we can do. And as they set the guidelines, we adapt to them. On the other flip side, myself and 2 other sous chefs started a little side business of prepared meals. We teamed up with the ACF. We teamed up with Food Maven, Rocker Spirits, Proud Souls, Elevation Food Reps of the Rockies. Elevation Food Reps of the Rockies, we're here now. They actually donated their commercial kitchen to us. So we've been using it for the last 6 weeks. We changed the menus weekly. We started off just selling on Wednesdays, and now we're Wednesdays and Fridays because Rocker Spirits wanted to get involved. And all the proceeds over, after the break-even point, we're tallying up, and we're going to donate those to the ACF, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, for the culinary students. It's been super successful. It started off with 6 people one week, and now we're almost at 100 people a week that are buying meals from us. We're working on the plans currently right now for the reopening. We have a reopen date of June 15th, and we're really watching transient occupancy with group business gone, it's going to be all the transient world to make sure that we should open June 15th. We'll definitely start with our market, lobby, bar, things like that, probably keeping the 3 meal closed. And as occupancy dictates, that'll be how we open. We've spaced out the tables. We've measured the restaurant by square footage to make sure we can maximize for us, but we're still within the guidelines for everyone else. So we're going to do that. We have more partitions coming in, the 6 feet floor stamps as you check in, more and more wireless app-based programs. If we don't have to have interaction that, the guest or the employee doesn't need, we're just not going to do that. We have mobile key now with Hyatt. You can almost completely check in and go to your room and use your cell phone as your key. So, things like that I think will really take off in the future. Of course there'll be staff around to answer questions, but you don't need to stand in that line if you don't have to. As far as for the culinary students, the ACF, things like that, I think, we'll come together as a whole and, just working together. Call a friend if you need to borrow something and you don't want to buy a whole case. We share with restaurants all the time. If they miss order, if they have a busy night, we can keep that going as long as things are returned, Absolutely. So if anyone needs help, I'm always here for the Denver community. Our Facebook page is @BePreparedDenver, and that's where we're taking orders and doing a lot of this cooking and community events and things like that. But absolutely, I want to be here to help people with advice. The ACF, we do a ton of events outside. We do a ton with culinary schools, with Escoffier, the Johnson and Wales, the ACF interns, things like that. That I want people to be able to call, ask questions, vent. It doesn't matter to us. We want to be here to help for sure.
My name is Christopher DeJohn. I'm a certified executive chef. I'm a member of the American Academy of Chefs. Been involved with the American Culinary Federation for 38 years, and locally here as well on the board of directors for 36 years. So my job, I work for Centerplate, which is a Sodexo company, and my job was support and training, or is support and training. So I help anybody in North America and beyond. I mean, our company is all over international. My home base is the Colorado Convention Center, so that's where I do a lot of training and actually helping and support. The latest area that I was working in is the airline division for North America. Denver has a new lounge that's opening up for American Express, and then eventually I think United's going to have a new lounge or 2 new lounges redone. I think this has brought on a lot of really good stuff, which I hate to say that in a time like this, but people washing their hands. I mean, it's just, that to me is probably the number one thing that we're going to get out of it. We all know that, but how the importance has become, it's amazing. And you're right. I mean, had we thought about it, glove use, mask use, try to limit as much as you can the buffets and do service instead, or what have you. And we did a lot of stuff that was individually wrapped and on a small plate, so it was easy to just grab and give. But they definitely, the serving of buffets, I think that's going to happen a lot in these large events. It's gonna take a while for these people to feel comfortable coming back to convention centers to eat. I mean, that's really the bottom line. And they've got to see that we're serving food safely. That's the biggest thing. I think it's a lot of that. And I started to say we have a lot of temporary services that we use. We may not need as much as we used to, just because of the sheer volumes may be down. But it'll build eventually, and it's got to be an overall understanding, especially going into a second wave and what have you. I'm on conference calls every Tuesday and Thursday with, as I started to explain, we have a great senior leadership team, and then we connect with the regionals that have the different areas, larger events and or larger facilities, and so they're kind of the generals that work in the areas. So yeah, they're working. We're working on different things to get ready for what it's going to look like, and putting out the parameters for that. As well as menus and pricing, and trying to, because the pricing is going to be affected too. That's the one thing that I don't think everybody realizes. It's a trickle down effect. So that's going to have some impact on everything we do. Prior to getting our temperature checked, and one way in, one way out as far as our locations go, and I'm sure that's going to be a consideration for the convention center as far as like that volume, because there's can be so many people. You had to check in on this website, 0 Hour Health, and answer a few questions. Then it comes back to you that you're okay to work. To prepare these convention centers to become hospitals, there's a huge cost in putting these things together. Even for 1,000 beds or 2,000 beds, it's, and the first place we saw it happening was Javits. So we compared a lot to what they were doing, but we had to do a lot of planning, clean rooms where we drop off food so that the workers up there pick it up. We never crossed over. The dirty areas got totally cleaned before we even saw it, and then got cleaned up. Most of what we are doing is box lunches, but they were ready to do hot food as if it was necessary. And, we fed a lot of the staff and what have you. So right now, the hospital is sitting dormant, waiting to see if, the governor was concerned with the second round of people coming out into the industry and maybe not heeding some of the distancing, and it's still there in case they need it. And I know the convention center's trying to plan and book, but I think it's going to take them a while to book. I think there's going to be a lot of Zoom conferencing. There's going to be a lot of technology brought into this. So I think that's going to help and hurt in some respects, but I think the big parties you're still going to have, the big conventions you're still going to have. It's just, I think everybody's budgets for the year are tough, and they have to wait till next year. The big push is, how's it going to look when we come back? What are we looking for? What's going to change? What's going to stay the same? Or if anything, I don't think anything really is going to. There's going to be a heightened awareness of everything, including hand washing, which I'm a big proponent of. I think there's going to be a lot on stewarding on this virus, because they're going to have to make sure that everything gets touched, that everything gets sanitized, that everything is on an annual basis. And that's already started as well. We have daily walkthroughs. So I think the biggest thing is we got to stay calm. We're the leaders, and we've got to always constantly be thinking about it, because I think sometimes we get in a lull, and we don't. In this industry, I've always felt you have to always be aware, because it's changing, and that's what's so good about what we do. And even as a big company, we change pretty quickly on how things are going to go. So know that it's going to change. It's new. Nobody's ever been there before. And I feel so bad for these small businesses. I guess that's probably one of the biggest areas that I feel that we need to support. And even as a big company like us, we're going to be looking at farmers. We're going to be looking at trying to get our product from, local as much as we can, because it just makes sense, and help keep them afloat, because it's so difficult. They can definitely reach out to me. I'm always, especially for culinarians, and I've done this for my life. It's 15 years of or 10 years of education and training, and 40 years in the industry, giving good advice and what have you. I'd probably I've had a lot of students that I've graduated and what have you. But Chris CHRIS.DeJohn, DEJOHN, at centerplate.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Centerplate.com is a good place to go to, www, and that'll bring you into an employee portal. Sodexo also has a website, Sodexo.com, and they can go into the employee portal or application area and start the process.
Thanks for listening to our culinary experts today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to the ACF directly or me, Rebecca at goldengroveglobal.com. Cheers.